All right, buddy. Ready for round two?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so you want to talk about all the tweets that you made?
Yeah, I think that would probably be a good place to start.
Okay. So you want to go over what your thought process is making making all these tweets?
Okay, well, would you like to go through the tweet one by one? Do you want me to
Sure.
pull it up and
Yeah, I have
Okay.
them up. Yeah, I got them up.
all right. Let me just get them up for me here. Okay. So, first of all, it says today I had a debate with Ahrelevant which went about as well as you would expect. Now, that was from my point of view because I did not expect the debate to go well. I expected us to not come to any agreement or very little agreement, which is what happened. And so that was the first bit. Now, I think your biggest grievance is obviously with the accusation that I stated I was ambushed.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as far as I remember it, what happened was I went into the call. Now, when I went into the call, I had no idea that I would also be debating Dylan. Okay, that's number one. Number
Okay.
two, when Duma
I mean, you
came
weren't
in,
really. I mean, he
Huh?
made points, but you weren't really debating Dylan.
No, but effectively, it was a 1v3. That's ended
It
up
was
what
not.
happened.
Oh,
Would
wait.
you disagree it was a 1v3?
Yeah, I
Would
would
you
disagree.
disagree?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, why?
Because do you think just because somebody's there and makes a point, that means that they're against you the entire time?
I think it's, as much as I like Dylan, I think it's fair. I think it's clear that he and I probably wouldn't have the same view on it, and I think that was expected. Um, you know, and so yeah, I
That's not what I
I do
asked.
think it. What did you ask?
What I asked is, do you think that if somebody is there for a short period of time, just making like one or two arguments, I think he maybe made, what, 3 arguments to you that entire time, where we had probably exchanged close to 80? Do you think that, like, that makes it a 1v3, the entire discussion? I'd be more amicable if you said there was moments where in which there was 1v3s, sure, but the entire debate was not a 1v fucking 3.
Okay, I'm willing to concede that point. That at times it was a 1v3. If I'm willing to concede that
Okay.
point, I would argue that that's a bit of semantics, but I'm willing to concede that point.
Okay, sure. Okay. Anyway, so, sure. If you want to say it's semantic, sure. I disagree, though.
Okay.
Okay.
Then Duma Politics came in.
Yep.
Right? Now, when Duma Politics came in, as far as I'm aware, I was talking to you and then Dylan. And then Dylan said, Duma Politics is on the line. He said something to that. And he said, would it be okay? Then you said yes. Now, at no point do I remember being asked, and I wouldn't have expected to be asked because it's your show. It's your stream. I really didn't have a right to say yes or no. I just think that when you're in a debate with someone, that person should know beforehand the people they're going to be interacting with.
I
and
didn't
how
know
many it's
either.
going to be.
Okay, so then if you thought this, why not just say you didn't feel comfortable with him joining the call?
Because it's your stream.
Okay, hold on. If it's my stream, then why are you complaining on Twitter when he joins the call?
Because I just don't think it's the way that debate should be handled.
Okay, no. Then why didn't you say it to me? To my face. Why did I have to read it on Twitter?
Okay. Hold on. There is a difference between me thinking that it was not okay and me being able or thinking it would be right to demand to control elements of your stream.
So then hold on. If you don't think you have a right to control what I do on my stream, why are you complaining about it on Twitter instead of complaining about it right to my face?
Because honestly, I didn't think you would let me back on to talk about this specific issue. And I wanted the ability to speak about the issue without being interrupted, because we all know that Twitch largely is blood sports. Let's be honest. We all know this. We all know that when someone starts shitposting in chat or shitting in chat or pushing back against some Twitch streamer, that generally, not all the time, but generally it's about you being able to maximize your debate performance and being able to minimize the argument or minimize the negative effect that the streamer thinks that the chat who's pushing back is having. It is a thing to make the main content creator look good. You know that.
I mean, there's an element of it, sure, but this has nothing to do with you choosing to not vocalize that, hey, I feel uncomfortable with Doomer Politics, the literal person we've been talking about this entire time, from joining this call, that we've been talking about him the entire time, until you get on Twitter after the debate.
Okay. I think you're not understanding what I am saying here.
Okay.
What I am arguing is that I can think something is wrong, but also not think it is right for me to say that you shouldn't be allowed to do that. I can think two things. Okay, there are a lot of things that I think my little sister does is wrong, but it doesn't necessarily mean I think I should have the right to control every aspect of her life.
So then why are you, so hold on. So then why are you complaining about it in a manner with which that makes it seem as though you had no control over it?
Because to some extent I didn't. It is your stream.
You did
this is the
have
argument
control over it. You could have chosen to abstain from the conversation when he joined.
I could have done, but then what you would have done, or okay, I won't say you, I would have said what was I would see as likely to have happened from experience seeing this happen to other people on various streams, is that someone leaves the call and then the other person goes, well, that person was too weak to defend his points. That person couldn't defend his arguments, and that's why he left. He couldn't bear the heat, which is what you would have said.
Okay, so
and
hold
I
on.
Thought,
wait,
okay.
So then what happened? Why are you complaining about it at all? If you were able to defend your points, why does it matter
okay,
that the literal
that
the literal person that we were talking about, Doomer Politics, this is like me complaining if you brought Vaush into the room, okay? We were talking about Doomer Politics and Vaush, all right? I think it's really important to have the person we're talking about inside of the call, right? So
okay.
Why are you complaining?
That's a lot of Gish galloping.
It's not a Gish gallop at all, okay? How many points did I make there?
Okay. The problem is you're going to make like 2, 3, 4, 5 points.
Name the points I made.
Okay. Number one,
the
point you made was that I had the right to abstain from the conversation. Number two, that Doomer Politics was there.
No, no. That's okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go on.
You paused as if you were done. I thought you were done. Continue.
Sorry. And that the conversation was about Doomer Politics. So it was right to have Doomer Politics in on the conversation. Now, I did say it was Gish gallop.
No, I never said, okay? I never posed that as a question. I made this statement as listed. Okay, Gish gallop is if I list you off like 9 different points that you have to respond to, all right? Does it not
I don't know what points I do have to respond to, though, because you're the guy talking at the moment, so that's...
So then how are you coming to the conclusion it's a Gish gallop if you don't know if you have to respond to any of these points?
Hold on. Because generally I do have to respond to all of these points. I'm not going to let you get away with saying points and me not responding to them.
Mainly because I don't think... I think these are given. Do you agree that if we're talking about somebody...
No, nothing is given. Hold on, nothing is given.
Okay. Tell me how the idea of if we're having a conversation about a person and that person shows up, is it not a given that we would probably get that person in on the conversation to weigh in?
Not always, no. I mean, the problem I have here is that generally when we're having... I mean, you could have a conversation about lots of people. I'm sure there are several times when you've had conversations with people and you haven't invited that exact person in.
No.
You know, every conversation,
no, hold on.
For example...
There's a difference. Okay, the person was well, yeah, because you're mischaracterizing the point. You're saying invite the person in.
No, I didn't. You want to look good.
No, hold on. You're trying this right now. I didn't invite the person.
What does that even mean?
What you're trying this means that you're trying to do something slippery, conniving, or deceptive. You're trying to score some points that I'm not going to allow you to score, just so that way you can earn some internet blood sports points. Okay, I'm trying my best to be able to break the.
Because I'm the one that runs the drama channel. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, wait. You realize we're looking at your tweets, right? You realize this is 4K. Sure. You're live. You know that, right? Just to be clear, you know you're live, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
We're looking at your tweets trying to farm the situation.
To argue that I am the one scoring political points when I'm not the one who runs the debate channel. Not the debate channel, sorry, the drama channel. It's ridiculous.
Are you joking? I can't tell. Are you memeing?
You actually believe that I'm here to score blood sports?
Yes, you are. That's what
Really?
you're.
I am.
Yes, it's very. It was evident in our last
How so?
conversation. It's evident now. By your.
How was it evident?
It's. Are you joking? It's through your rhetoric and what you're choosing to specifically tack onto. You're not choosing to tack, like right now, for instance, you're trying to say, well, what exactly am I specifically tacking onto in order to get away from the subject that we were specifically talking
I didn't realize
about?
that was
No, you're diverting the conversation. What were we talking about originally before you went on this tangent?
We were talking about the ambush.
No, we were not. What were we talking about
specifically?
What were we talking about specifically right before we got on this tangent?
Was it about whether
you don't remember, do you?
Politics? No, hold on. Was it about that Duma politics? Okay, sorry. Was it about that whether we should let Duma politics in on the conversation? Isn't that what we were talking about?
There you go. You got to it. Okay, it was about whether or not it is morally okay to talk about another individual without letting that individual in on the conversation.
I'm sensing a very high level of hostility here. This is really bad.
The reason why you're sensing hostility is because you tweeted at me and you literally had, like, in the first tweet, a lie.
I don't think a tweet from someone who has like 262 followers really should should get you to have this type of reaction. I really
why are you trying to make appeals to how low your follower count? Would you prefer me to say you have 200 followers? I'm just not going to talk to you anymore and I'll block you? Is that what do we want to play? Hold on. What reality are we living in here?
Why are you so mad here?
Because
why are you so mad?
Hold on.
You're very angry.
Hold on. Because what you're trying to say is that I'm not justified in being upset at somebody calling me out just because they have low followers? Do you think that I'm like a narcissist?
I would assume that you probably have several people call you out.
Yeah. And so,
really?
And I find it upsetting when individuals make claims that they cannot substantiate. For instance, a lie in the first tweet. Do you agree or disagree that it is a lie?
I disagree.
No.
I absolutely disagree. It was a lie.
Hold
absolutely.
on. Do you think that Dylan ambushed you in the call when he was in the call before you even joined?
I said I was ambushed. I didn't say that Dylan did it. Let's be clear.
No, you literally did. You said after 10 minutes, excuse you, after 10 minutes, I am ambushed with two other people that come into the call, at Doomer Politics and at Dylan Burns. Dylan didn't come into the call. Dylan was in the call before you even joined.
Okay, I'm willing.
So is that a lie? That sounds like a lie.
Okay, it's not a lie because let me be clear. Okay. The fact of the matter is, I shouldn't have worded it this way, but my main argument is that I didn't know that I would be debating Dylan, and I didn't know that I would be debating Doomer Politics. I stand by that argument. Okay?
So,
simply because you want me to word it in the exact perfect way.
It's not about wording it in the exact specific way. You worded it very carefully. You used the word ambush very specifically. Yeah, you did. Because you've been substantiating it in a very specific way. You said after about 10 minutes. Hold on. You said after about 10 minutes, I am ambushed with two other people in the call. Dylan was in the call the entire time, including prior to 10 minutes. How do you get this after 10 minutes?
Because he wasn't speaking the entire time.
Hold on. How do you get this after 10 minutes number?
After 10 minutes? Well, that was,
for Dylan.
I have to admit, a guesstimation on my part.
Well, Dylan was in there the whole time. How are you getting this after 10 minutes number?
No. But Dylan didn't speak to about 10 minutes later on, or maybe even 20 minutes, I think. Dylan wasn't speaking for the majority of that time. So technically, why he wasn't speaking, it wasn't ambushed. But when he did start speaking, in your behalf, not on your behalf, but in the same,
my Discord,
arguing similar stuff to you. What?
Sorry. All right. Do you want to have a conversation with Destiny? Or are you going to say he ambushed you? Well, because he wants to get in here.
Destiny wants to speak to me?
Yeah, Destiny wants to speak to you.
Okay, if he doesn't.
Hold on, are you going to take to Twitter and say I ambushed you?
No,
I got to ask for your consent. I need your enthusiastic consent for this.
Hold on. Just give me a minute. Because I think that Destiny doesn't engage in a lot of bad faith arguments, and I think largely you have been fairly bad faith. Okay.
All right, we'll see. Okay. But yeah. We'll see if he joins. Okay. God damn it, dude. This man always leaves my fucking Discord, dude. He fucking quits my Discord every fucking time. I don't know. We'll see.
It begins.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
What's up?
Okay, so Ahrelevant said you wanted to talk to me, or
He
you wanted to
cometh
come into
Moncol.
this chat, and
Oh
I'm
God, oh
a little
fuck.
bit nervous because it's Mr. Debate King, so I'm sort of surprised by this.
Well, what have you guys been talking about? What's the subject?
All right. So
Okay,
good.
okay, you go on Ahrelevant. You can
Okay, so
probably
the
describe it
subject
better than
was
me.
I had a conversation with this individual yesterday about Vaush's response to the critique of Doomer Politics' video. I think that Vaush handled it incredibly poorly. They believed that they did not, that there was overall not very much good substantiation in the arguments. Long story short, Doomer Politics ended up joining the Discord because, like, Dylan, who was sitting inside of the call, said, hey, you know, we're talking about him. I got him here on the line. You want to let him in? We let him in. And he's in there. We have a discussion. All four of us have a discussion. And then later, right after I guess some context that might be relevant is at the end of it, I gave up on the conversation because we got to a point where in which this person was defending the position that Vaush took, which was when he was called out on clip chimping a 14-second clip of a cop planting evidence. I was like, yo, that's pretty cringe. Like, we shouldn't be doing this shit. And he called out, a chatter called him out and was like, yo, maybe literally the quote was like, this is why we should review evidence. And then Vaush pushed back, no, I think it's cool to jump to assumptions when we're talking about cops and things like that. And I said, that's probably not something that I'm really cool with. I feel like we should probably gather a little bit more evidence. And this person pushed back on that. And after like a 2-hour debate with that ending there, I just didn't feel like I could get through to them. So I said that, like, you know, that's that. I don't want to have the conversation anymore. And yeah, and now here we are because they took to Twitter.
Can you give me 30 seconds? Somebody link me a clip. One
For
second. Let me
sure.
just listen to this real quick. Okay, wait. Are you talking to this person now when they said so we don't need to we can jump to a conclusion without
Correct.
reviewing the evidence?
This is the same person.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess we can talk about that if you want.
Okay then. So I guess because just you're more intelligent than me, I'll probably ask you more questions. So
Okay, I don't think anybody's more or less intelligent. I don't think that's. I don't think you have to worry about that. Okay, music school flunky. So, what do you got?
Okay. Okay. I remember watching a stream of yours, like, was this 7 months ago? And I think what had happened was there was a police officer and there was like an African American. They were chasing an African American. And I think someone was shot or something. And then someone told you the story and you made a conclusion. And then when someone gave you more evidence, you made a different conclusion. I have to admit, like, I was very nervous in that debate, but my main argument is that I think it's very difficult for streamers to, like, not make
Where was this
conclusions
energy
when
for
they're
you?
processing information a lot of the time in live time. And I mean,
Isn't that
like,
kind of what? Isn't that like kind of the? Well, so firstly, I would need to know which one you're talking about because usually when I cover breaking news, I try to be like really, really anal about like, hey, we don't know this piece. This could change that. This could change that because all of that
I
can get really
know
hurt.
that's that can make it like so unfair on you because, like, I don't remember the exact, like, I don't remember the case because I think like the police were right in this situation, so I think it like died down fairly quickly. But yeah,
Interesting
I don't
how
remember the
that
case.
happens.
So yeah, so
Okay.
do you disagree with my general assertion that
people can rush to conclusions?
that it's difficult for streamers to not rush to conclusions when they're trying to cover news in live time?
Yeah, it can be, but I mean, like, that's not an excuse not to do it, right? If anything, that's an even greater reason to never cover breaking news, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you? So then, you don't. I'm guessing you don't then think streamers should cover breaking news. I'm guessing.
I don't at
Is
all.
that-
No. The only reason I do is because it's irritating that I won't over and over and over again, and then I've got to watch people like Hassan or Vaush cover breaking news, and it's always like the most horrendously slanted,
Right.
biased way possible. And it's like, okay, well, fuck, let's try to inject a little bit more responsibility into the narrative. That's usually how I feel.
Okay, I can accept that. I mean, I would disagree probably as a more left-leaning person. I would probably disagree a little bit more because I think when you have a political mission, it's important to try and cover up breaking news, or if you're arguing for something like just generally racial justice, and you're I guess talking about things on the spot, like how stuff happens, like for example with the George Floyd situation.
Sure.
I think
I think it is possible
Sure,
to cover
100.
breaking news
I
in
totally
a
live
responsible
by the
manner with
way.
a lot of caveats.
I'm way smarter than you.
But Vaush certainly doesn't do that. Like, it's not even close, right?
yeah, I mean, I would agree with that to some extent. I also agree that I think as leftists, we tend to probably be a little bit hyperbolic when we talk about the police. Like, I'm definitely not in favor of like all the
Wait.
rhetoric.
I want to be really careful and
He's
clear with the words we
trying it.
use. So
Okay.
hyperbolic does not
He's
mean
trying
like
it.
making up
Yeah.
misinformation.
Oh
These
my
are two totally
God.
different things. So when Vaush covers, so we'll use the example of that one drug or the baggie that he said that one cop planted in that person's
Yep.
vehicle. That wasn't hyperbole. That was not only was that a lie, it was a massive load of assumptions and conjecture that were totally unfounded in reality. So I just want to be very clear that that's way different than hyperbole. Those are two very different things.
Okay, I can accept that. I mean, I can't argue much about that because I don't know much about that situation. Like, I don't
Well,
even know if I was watching.
what's one breaking news situation with Vaush that you feel like you watched?
Okay, well, I definitely watched a lot of the live coverage he did of like when George Floyd was originally shot, and a lot of the Breonna Taylor. I think when he covered that live, I think I watched a lot of that. Did you have problems
Okay,
with what?
so
Vaush-
I didn't watch the George. So to be clear, George Floyd wasn't shot, right? He was choked or whatever
Sorry.
on the
Yeah,
ground.
yes. I'm sorry. My apologies.
No, that's fine. So I mean, like I play this game with a lot of people. I guess I can ask you a question. Like, do you know where Breonna Taylor was when she was shot?
Okay, from what I understand, she was in her bedroom. Am I correct?
Where where in her bedroom?
Okay, from what I know.
Okay, actually,
was
let me
still in
just
bed.
let me just
Like,
It's in the
my bad.
hallway,
okay.
right?
Yeah, no, that's fine. So can you like? I'm just curious because so if you want to pull out of this example, that's fine. Okay, I'm okay with that. But so I asked you for an example, and then you gave me the watch coverage. So I'm just trying to follow down with what I think you might be most familiar with.
Okay,
So for the
as far as I know, that Breonna Taylor was in her bed when she was shot. That's what I know.
yeah,
That's
sure. So can you just kind of like very briefly kind of walk me through about what you think like happened in terms of like how did it get to the point where cops are shooting Breonna Taylor in bed or anything?
Okay, so what I know is that cops had a warrant, I think, or they had a no-knock warrant for her boyfriend, was it? And they decided to, of course, from what I understand, like storm the house in a way. I guess like where they use a thing and they break the door. And
Sure,
so they
100.
walk in.
Listen,
And
motherfucker,
from
you're
what I
trying
know,
to
they
tell
end
me.
up going into the bedroom because that's where they are. The boyfriend, I think, was the first one to move, and I think was he the first one to shoot? Was he the one to open shots? And then I think the police opened shots, and Breonna Taylor, I think it was found out she was awake, but I think she was still in her bed. Is that the correct? That's what I know. That's the at least version that I know of the events.
Sure.
Or am I
Okay,
still being
close.
too broad?
I'm just kind of curious when we talk about like police interventions. I'm kind of curious in terms of like what we think is like an appropriate response to the police. There was
Okay.
another shooting that happened around this time, but it wasn't covered as much, maybe because somebody white died. But so I'm just kind of curious like what your thoughts are on this. So there was a I think this was it was either in like it was like Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, or whatever.
That was his
where
first
there was
mistake being
a
white.
house, and it was suspected that in this house there was a hold on one second. Okay. In this house, it was suspected that there was like a meth lab and that people that had lived there prior to this had been working that meth lab, although they didn't know if the person there right now was currently working it. So police show up at this house, and initially they have a no-knock warrant.
Okay.
But by the time they get there, they kind of change their mind. They're like, well, we don't know if we need to no-knock. So the police knock on this
Oh
door a
no,
couple
he's
times.
doing it.
I don't really think it matters,
He's
but the two people
trying it.
inside this house are like suspected of being I don't know if they were with the Proud Boys or what, but one of these far right
Okay.
groups. So
Is he literally doing
both
the
people that
exact
are in the house
scenario
at the
with
time, the
Breonna
boyfriend and
Taylor
girlfriend, come to the door
with white
and
people?
they are listening, and the boyfriend is actually worried that the people knocking on the door are actually like a rival, like drug people that are like
Oh no.
pretending to like be the cops so that they can break in and
Oh
kill him,
wait.
right?
Okay.
So it gets to the point to where now the police report and the people conflict, but they say that there were words exchanged at the door.
Oh
The
no.
boyfriend and the girlfriend end up walking back down this hallway, and then eventually the cops, after not
Yes.
getting any more words back from these people, bust down the door. Now, when the cops bust down the door, the girlfriend's boyfriend immediately shoots at the police, and one
Okay.
cop is struck. And after that cop gets struck, the rest of the cops in the hallway, I think, open fire. There's like 10 or 20 shots down the hallway. And the guy that shot originally wasn't killed, but his girlfriend was killed. And I think that's how that story played out.
Okay.
Um, in terms of like that story, do you think that like as the cops were shot at first, when they entered, they weren't even in the apartment yet? Do you think that it sucks that the girl died, but do you think that there was like a tragedy here or like something outrageous that the cops need to be corrected for?
Um. Okay. I would say. I would say no. Um. Okay. So I wouldn't argue that the cop should be arrested or put in jail, but I do
Mhm.
think a fair public inquiry into the matter should probably be done. I don't know if that's
Sure.
fair. If you think
I
that's
think
a
that's
fair
totally
argument.
fair. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
100% fair. Okay.
And also reviewing
So
like maybe what to do better in like situations next time.
yeah, I understand. So, okay, so I'm going to step back a little bit. I 100% lied to you. So, what I just told you was verbatim. That was the Breonna Taylor story. She died in the hallway when she was struck multiple times. Her boyfriend opened
Okay.
fire on the cops first. He shot one time, he hit a cop. The cops returned fire, and then Breonna Taylor was killed behind him in the hallway. She wasn't killed in bed. Cops didn't break into the apartment and shoot her and execute her in bed or anything like that. The boyfriend fired first. They were going to serve a no knock warrant, but they ultimately didn't do that initially. They knocked on the door. The communication wasn't great, and then eventually they broke in. Um, do you see how like having more facts
Tactical
about the
move.
story? Now, I'm not saying that it makes it okay because there was some behavior that was reprehensible by the officers. For
Hmm.
instance, one officer was out in the parking lot who was shooting into the apartments through the window, which was
Yeah, I
outrageous, and
heard
that
about
guy
that.
was indicted and charged for it, thankfully, and convicted. But do you see how having a little bit more facts of the story make this story sound a
Turnabout
little bit
Stephen.
less absolutely insane? Like the idea that a poor woman was like executed in bed by police officers is a little bit different than like officers were returning fire when her boyfriend in the hallway shot at them first.
Absolutely. I can definitely see that. Um,
Mhm.
to uh, to be clear, I never
Mhm.
ever myself made the
Mhm.
argument whether to anyone to whether the police in the Breonna Taylor situation should be arrested or fined or sacked or anything.
So you've
I
never tweeted or retweeted or anything like that? Anything related to the tragedy of Breonna Taylor being executed in bed by cop?
I'm
You don't think
pretty
that's ever?
okay. And I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure I haven't. Not in that situation, because mainly, I mean, when it came to Black Lives Matter myself, I was mainly concentrated on the George Floyd situation.
Mhm.
Largely because I think when it comes to criminal justice reform, the George Floyd situation is something that like even moderate conservatives can agree is fairly bad, and I think that
Mhm.
situation is the one that BLM should like argue for reform on because that's like the most clear cut one of
Sure.
like police misconduct. Yep.
Yep, and that is true. Even conservatives that watched that video thought that was bad, and most
Yep.
people seem to agree with that, which is good. Um,
Yeah.
so when it comes to things like the Breonna Taylor case, if you have somebody
Mm-hmm.
that is consistently covering news like this over and over and
Mm-hmm.
over again, and you watch 3, 4, 5, 6 different police and black people interactions, and you're getting like these types of tellings of the event, don't you think that that type of like misinformation will eventually like corrode your mind to the point to where you are heavily biased against a certain party without even really a factual basis to be that bias?
I would argue yes, but would. I know you like probably because I've heard you say that before you debated, you thought that most people had rational thought, but
Mhm.
I think most people, at least most people who should be watching these videos, should be like researching this from more than one source.
Yeah, but
Like Vaush
realistically, that
shouldn't
probably
be
doesn't
the
happen, right?
yeah. That's the disappointing thing I
Mm.
think
But even if
for
it was the
yeah.
case that they did research multiple sources, if you watched 5 different lefties, they might all be in unison giving you the wrong take about like a certain interaction because they hate cops so much, as silly as that is to sound. And I guess that's kind of my problem with like the jumping to conclusions thing. Is that like,
Okay.
yeah. And my issue is that like I really don't even care about cops. I just the overall environment. I don't know how old you are, but in the
I'm
United States after
25.
9 okay. In the United States after 9/11, every
Hmm.
single time a brown person did anything, conservatives were so quick to be like, that was a terrorist, terrorist.
The same in
Every
Australia.
time. Yeah. And they constantly want to call and it's like, wait, bro, we don't know anything about this yet. How the fuck are you like already trying to, fit this narrative in? But I see the thing with cops is like being basically the same type of thing. And that's kind of what worries me about that stuff.
Okay. Do you put do you hold any claim to, I guess, the leftist argument that we should be overly critical more about police because they're an arm of the state than we should be about black people? Would you hold
Overly
any?
critical. In some ways, I think that the job itself carries more responsibility. So like in
Sure.
some ways, yeah, I do. Like I'm gonna expect a
Sure, I
cop to
agree.
act with more responsibility because I'm sorry, but police officers have the liability of what they do. That's part of why they're police officers. So yeah, I would
Mhm.
agree with you 100% there. But being more accountable doesn't mean that people should be able to just make up facts or assume false narratives about you. That's kind of my problem, I guess, which is something that it feels like Vaush and people on the left do so much.
Right. I mean, I definitely you know nothing about me, but I definitely have been like critical of like several leftists. Um I guess like I definitely have like my own problems with Vosh. I mean, you probably didn't hear the previous discussion I had, but I did name a lot of my criticisms of Vosh, but I guess they were more on policy than the way he represents the facts. So I can
Mhm.
understand how like yeah, I can definitely understand what you're saying and how Vosh. I mean, I know you're gonna hate me being overly charitable, I
I
guess,
can't speak
but how Vosh can go
because he'll
overboard and
say he's
sometimes he
ambushed.
obviously can misrepresent the facts. Um, but I I know it sounds like I'm weaseling, but I think Vosh still holds a lot of utility when it comes to online discussion and debate and the
Yeah, but
content that
so
he creates. And I think that's where we're going to disagree.
so my
That
problem,
isn't
and this is like
relevant.
the biggest thing that I have to deal with, is that as soon as
Mhm.
people on the
It's not
left start
relevant. Who
engaging
cares?
in
Doesn't mean he has to
misinformation,
lie.
it seems like it seems like you've kind of ceded all the fact-based arguments to conservatives because now anytime a conservative wants to argue and you're like, okay, hold on, I don't know if this is exactly right, they could be like, what about when that person lied about that and that and that and that and that, and it's like, fuck, yeah, maybe, right? And now all of a sudden it feels
I
like
am
all of
not.
your arguments are neutered because people on
They
your
can't hear
side
me.
have already said like, we can ham it up a bit as long as it like suits our narrative, which is something I think is really scary.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and I definitely think that leftists have to be more fact based. Now, I know from like your opinion, you probably think, with maybe the exception of Soakdom Left, that like leftists probably can't do this because of the ideological framings in which they get themselves into. But yeah, I definitely like. Okay, I'll give you an example to like so you at least know where I'm coming from. I think probably the biggest person who does spreads a lot of misinformation who we would consider left would be Carl
Hmm.
Kalinske. I've argued this several times. I think Carl Kalinske is the worst for this. Where
Hmm.
I don't know if we would agree on that, but
Probably,
yeah,
I hate him more than almost any other commentator online.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know. I've been watching you since 2017.
okay.
But yeah, so I definitely think like it's a problem, and I don't think that Vosh should have reported that the way he did. Um, yeah, so I would concede that too, Destiny. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Hmm. Okay, well, wait. So then, okay,
Mhm.
Ahrelevant, are you here?
Yep.
Okay, so because you have to tell me if things are changing, because I don't know. So was this more or less the position that you guys had reached earlier, or
Oh,
because
hell
it
no.
sounded wait?
Absolutely not. His position was the opposite. You convinced him to change his position.
Wait, okay. So what? So why? What has changed?
Um,
I'm asking either Relevant or the other guy. Yeah, go.
okay, I think the reason it's changed, and yeah, this is a little bit of bad character on my part, I would admit, but I think my discussion with Ahrelevant was a lot more hostile than yours and mine is.
That's not what changed. What changed, I'm talking about the position. I don't disagree with you. We were more hostile, but that was after a period of time. For a while, we were doing okay. But yeah, I don't disagree with you. It was more hostile. What changed was you agreed with the position that we should be able to make up a story or a narrative about a cop until more information comes out. That was your position that I was pushing back on. And that's where I drew the line. because after 2.5 hours of us like butting heads, ending on that point, I just couldn't handle it. I'll fully admit that I couldn't handle that. So yeah, that's what changed.
Okay.
Wait, I'm assuming you don't hold that position anymore, right? That's what you just
What?
conceded, that we
Okay,
should
look,
be able to.
Okay, look.
Looking.
By the time we got to that point, it was. I mean, I did feel like it was a lot more hostile, and I was being backed into a corner. So I pretty much went, you know what? Fuck it. I know that sounds bad. Like, I know this probably sounds really bad, but I did because I felt by that point that Ahrelevant to some extent was arguing with me in bad faith. And I lost interest in actually, I think by that point, arguing a lot of my points.
Wouldn't it be better to just stop talking then and like choose to take a breather from the conversation than make up positions?
What do you mean make up positions?
You said, well, I mean, I'm assuming that you said when you say fuck it, what you mean is that you don't actually hold the opinion. You just said fuck it and just went for it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it's okay. I don't hold. Okay, I hold the opinion that I think it's always going to be difficult, and we're always going to have misinformation because people are covering live news, and I think leftists have to, well, to some degree, cover live news. But
right, and so
I do think my biggest point was that I don't think that Vaush should be held to a higher standard than media organizations, because media organizations do often rush to make conclusions. And I've seen several of Destiny's streams where he's like shown media organizations that have rushed to make conclusions before. I just
Sure, but
think
if I'm critical of them, I can be critical of Vaush for doing it too, right? It's not like I'm saying we should let one slide and the other not.
But don't you think that someone with a journalist degree and someone who works in media should like be held to a little bit of a higher standard than Vaush?
To be honest, real quick, no, I don't think so. I think that our jobs are pretty easy. The amount of, well, in terms of like getting the facts right, like there's here's something that I've discovered over the past year or two that's just blown my mind. If you read an entire article, like you know more than 95% of internet commentators and like more than 99.99% of people. Yeah. And like a lot of the times that people people that are like commentators don't even read like a couple articles. Like there are like fuck, I wish I could remember who I watched seeing this, but like I would bet money on this that if you were to show leftist commentators a picture of Israel and you were to show them the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, that if you were to switch the labels, most of them would think it makes sense, and they would call the Gaza Strip the West Bank because it's on the west side. I truly do believe
I agree with
yeah.
that. I absolutely agree with that. The
Yeah,
whole
so like
fucking discourse around Israel was so bad.
Yeah, and everything. But the problem is, if we constantly take this like conciliatory tone where it's like, yeah, you know, it happens, people mess up. I don't think it's just people messing up because it's like, oh, you know, like you didn't know precisely where like this neighborhood was. It's more like, oh, you don't even have like a basic accounting of the facts, but you want to come out and give like really hot takes over it. And that's kind of what bothers me, I guess.
I also want extra precision on this because my point of contention was not actually, if you remember, RedTube reviews, the point of contention wasn't necessarily that he got the facts wrong. My point of contention, the whole reason why I brought it up is because when somebody gave him pushback, he doubled down. That was my point, right? That it wasn't just that Vaush was eager and then ran to the against the cops. It's that when pressed by a person in chat saying, "Well, this sounds like we should review evidence," the most benign claim in the world, he said, "No, I'm perfectly fine with justify," and then proceeded to justify his actions. That's why I brought that up. And then you defended that. You didn't defend Vaush just making the claim. You defended Vaush also pushing back against the chatter who said maybe we should review evidence.
Okay. If I remember correctly, my argument was that from Vaush's perspective, Vaush believes that he is right in making those claims because they are in a position of authority. That's his argument. That is generally the leftist
So
position.
yes, his argument.
And I don't.
Sorry, my bad. I wanted to get
no,
more.
No, go on. Ahrelevant.
Okay. No, if you want to go on, you can. I just wanted to like a more precise or to break bread that yes, you are correct. That is a correct thing. He stated very explicitly that he believed that he should be able to jump to an assumption about the police based on a 14-second clip because they hold so much societal power. I don't think that makes it better, but you are correct.
Yeah, and you know, I'm going. Yeah, I think. Again, I think by that point, I mean, I was angry. I was Yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean, like, these are probably, like, not good arguments. I'm willing to admit that. This is, like, my first major debate. So, yeah, I know, like, these probably aren't good arguments, but yeah.
So do you still
Sure,
hold
it's
the
fine.
position?
And I'm not for
Sure.
just real quick for in terms
Mhm.
of like what I'm interested in. Like, I'm not here to
Mhm.
like crucify like you as an individual for a
Yeah, I
variety of
know.
reasons. Yeah, but I guess it's just more just kind of
What
like
are the reasons?
showing.
I'm interested.
Well, so like my problem is that like I think that you can. Fuck.
Yeah.
Hold on, sorry.
It's okay.
Are you still playing Darkest
Is-
Dungeon?
Is
Yeah,
your
but there's
internet?
some guy with a fucking motorbike outside who's vrooming super hard. Jesus Christ. Okay. My problem is there's like this two-step process to bad misinformation. Okay, or maybe in 3 steps. I'm thinking of this on the fly. Okay, sorry. I know Vaush likes lists, so I'll try to use lists more. So number 1 is you incorrectly identify the facts of the matter. Okay.
Okay.
And then number 2 is you like extrapolate from those incorrect facts. And then number 3 is that it poisons your entire worldview about future cases. So I'm going to try to give you like a clear 1, 2, 3. Okay. So here is something that happened. There was a cop video where a cop throws a baggie in the backseat with somebody. Did you watch this?
No, I don't think I watched this one.
Okay, well, in the video, all you see is guy's holding the phone, and he looks at a cop throwing a bag in his backseat, and he's like, "Yo, are you planting evidence? What the fuck? What the
He
fuck?"
didn't watch the video we
And
were
that's it, right?
talking
It's like
about.
a minute. And
Oh, I don't think I saw Vosh's coverage, but I think I saw this video. I definitely think
sure,
I saw
it might
this
be,
video.
yeah.
Okay.
So when Vaush covered this, so initially he has an incorrect accounting of the facts. He says, "Oh wow, look, the guy is throwing drugs into the dude's back seat." But then he goes to step 2, all on his own, where not only does he have an incorrect counting of the facts, now he projects from that and he starts reading way more into the situation that's not even there. So he starts saying,
Exactly,
"Wow,
Tommy.
look at how the cop is twisting right as he throws it in. He's doing that to avoid the body camera catching it. He's been trained to plant evidence."
I remember
And
that.
then this leads us like pretty organically to step 3. Like, okay, cops are literally being trained around the United States to hide their body cams so they plant evidence, and this is going to taint like every future view you have of like a police like citizen interaction. To where if you ever hear something like, "Oh, well, cops found drugs in this person's car," you're like, "Okay, maybe," but I also happen to know that cops are trained to plant drugs in people's cars. I watched Vaush show me an incorrect fact and then explain with conjecture that had no basis in reality how cops do this. So like these are the types of things that I'm worried about that like super like fuck our media environment, I think.
Okay, yeah. So I would definitely argue that Vosh probably shouldn't have done that. I would also argue that I'd prefer it instead of Vosh just like saying, "Well, this is why." At least if he said something, "Well, in my opinion, this is why this is happening." I mean, I've been critical about this a bit about this before. That I do think
Mhm.
that he should use more, in my opinion, because
Sure,
at
but
least then I think it would be
however,
a little bit better.
yeah, so this is what I try to think as well, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that a black guy is walking down the street. He looks
Mhm.
into a car, looks for a second, and then he walks away. Now, let's say that I watched that video. I've got like a street camera and everything, and I'm like,
Okay.
I bet that motherfucker, you could tell, look at the clothes he's wearing. Okay, he's got jewelry on. All right, probably listens to rap. And now, I don't know, but in my opinion, I think he was looking to see if there's something worth stealing in that car.
Yeah.
In my opinion, make that feel any better? Does it seem like, oh, okay, well, at least he said it's just his opinion, right? Like,
No, I get what you're saying.
Mhm.
You're gonna hate me for this, but I'm gonna give the classic leftist opinion that I think I think there's a difference between, and you're gonna disagree with me, but I think there's a difference between making conclusions about like what I'd see an ordinary person and someone who's an arm of the state. And I guess this is like where we're gonna clash a bit, I guess.
well, why? What is like fundamentally different that it's okay to just make a basis assumption about an individual versus a basis assumption about another individual, regardless of job or position?
Okay, that is a good question. I think this is difficult.
Because I think there's like
Yeah.
I think there's in your mind you're combining two things, but they need to be separated. Because I think the answer that you want to give, if I ask that slightly differently, like why can we be more critical of the cop than the black person? Well, the answer you want to jump to is like, okay, well the cop has a lot more authority vested in him, therefore we are right to be more critical of the cop. And I would agree with you there, 100%.
Yeah.
If two people are fucking around a situation, you find out one is an officer and one isn't. Well, the officer definitely has more responsibility there. He's trained and held to a higher degree, but just because we hold two people to a different accountability doesn't mean that we can make assumptions about one and not the other. I don't think that logically follows, right? Like, yeah, cops can we can be more critical of cops for sure, but that doesn't mean we should just be able to like make shit up about them if we can't make shit up about like any other person, right? That's what I would think.
Okay. I would accept that. I would accept that as a fair argument. Again, again, I think, well, not again, but I think part of this problem is I think this is a leftist problem in general. This is a like leftist content creator problem in general. This is not specifically only a Vaush problem.
I think, to
hope
be
you
clear,
don't think I'm
I
arguing
think
in bad
this is
faith.
no, I don't think so. And to be clear, I don't think this is actually a leftist problem. I think this is an everybody problem. We're talking about lefties right now because that's unfortunately what's all over the fucking internet. But like
Yeah.
conservatives do this shit all the time when it comes to black people. This is essentially, it's funny because like this is the left's version of the he was no angel argument, right? Where like people, you know, when a black guy dies, conservatives are like frothing at the toxicology report if they can see like some trace of fucking THC in the blood. It's like, oh, he was a fucking drug addict. Like, of course this
God, I mean, I
this
wish
black
I would
dude was
never
up to no good,
created
right?
Vaush.
But like, I feel like lefties are kind of similar, where they're like, we're scouring their faces, like, okay, did he have one fucking post about cops or Donald Trump or Thin Blue Line? It's like, oh, he did. He was a conservative. He was an alt-righter, right? It feels like the same type of thing, where there's just like everybody wants to hardcore categorize and jump to conclusions about people, and it's like, damn, like maybe we should wait for like a little bit of like a basic accounting of the facts before we start to draw conclusions about what happened, you know?
So, okay, like, yeah, I get where you're coming